Hello, this is Mark, and you are listening to another episode of Work Experience Discover, the EST podcast. About a week ago, I met up with Vesan from India. He did an EST internship in mechanical engineering in Germany, and I was really curious on how he adjusted basically to come to Germany and how his first impression was, and very important because Vesan reached out to us and he wanted to be part of the podcast to explain how he made the decision to finally also study in the Netherlands for his master degree, and he graduated about a year ago, and he really wanted to tell me about how yes that changed his life. So I was really curious, and I hope you are too, and thank you very much, and please enjoy this episode of Work Experience Discover. Welcome back to the Yesterday podcast Work Experience Discover. My name is Mark, and today I'm joined by Vesan from India. Hi Vesan, how are you doing?
Hi, Mark. Good to meet you. I'm doing good.
Great. Thank you very much for being part. And Vesan is here today with us because he did in 2015 an internship in Germany. You're originally from India, right?
Yep.
And let us actually start at the very beginning. I checked your LinkedIn, and you did a bachelor degree in mechatronics at the Manipal Institute of Technology. We have a very active local committee there, actually. And
Yes, indeed.
how was the process? How did you get in contact with Yesta in the first place, or why did you decide also to study there and mechatronics engineering?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think the decision for mechatronics was pretty simple. I always wanted to be an engineer, but I never really knew what exactly I wanted to do. So this seemed something that was good enough in a generic sense to take up as a subject. And then I decided that, okay, once I have an idea of what it's like, I will specialize further on in my career. As compared to Manipal, I think I heard really good things about it from my seniors who were already there or from other people. And when I went there myself to take admission, it seemed like a really good place. Very beautiful. Very. It seemed like a place where you could get a holistic degree. Very close to nature. So yeah, not in a very busy city. Of course, now it's growing, but that's how it always is, I guess. And yeah, when I think about IST, I think within the first 3 months of us starting our bachelor program there, we had um, we had a notification amongst all of the batchmates that there was something like this. We didn't know what it was. It was international, and it had super hype around it because it was one of the few international organizations that at Manipal. And there was a recruitment process. They said, yeah, we want some volunteers. So I went for the first round. It was like I don't remember what it was, but I remember there were quite a few rounds where they pushed us through some activities, group discussions, just trying to get to know us better.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I remember I think at the penultimate stage, I was talking to some people within the university, so I got to know more people there, and they were like, "Yes, it's something that's very rewarding, but then it takes up a lot of your time." So in fact, in the last round, I was not sure if I wanted to go through with it, but I went for the round anyway. I didn't like backing out at the end, and they finally selected me in a very peculiar way that they called me up and said, "No, sorry, we did not select you for this,
Okay,
but
cool.
next time." And then I was like, "Oh yeah, sure, that's totally fine." And then I cut the call, and then they called me back saying, "Wait, actually, you've got in." So I was like, "Oh, that's great." But so memories like that are still pretty dear to me. I think it's
that
stuff like
that's
that.
that's really cool. How many students does the university in Manipal actually have? I don't know that.
Right. So I think when in my batch of, say, just the first year of engineering was about at least 2,000 people. And then
Mm-hmm.
engineering is 4 years. And so it's like 8,000 people in total.
Okay.
But the system in ISD Manipal, it works in such a way that they only recruit from the very first year, and then they just stick with that team so that they can build on a strong foundation and then not worry about people coming in later on, because there's so
Yeah.
much to learn that it doesn't make sense to hire from second year or third year
and
experience.
and within the LC, then actually within the team, you have a kind of bond because you're staying together for 4 years and you really
Exactly.
know each other well, and that really helps also with the activities. Maybe for everyone who's not knowing, yes, India is one of the biggest the countries when it comes to offers and student exchanges. It's really
Correct.
incredible what those students volunteers are pulling off, and that's why it makes sense also to stick the team together, because of course, yes, they internally we have our processes, we have our tools, and from that point of view, it's always good if people know each other. It's like we're in a good company, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, you stick with the people, and then I think it's easier to achieve things at short notice a little better. But also, yeah, indeed, you were right. For some people, we require so much input of our time into ISA that it's the only social circle we have at the end of the day.
Okay.
So, yeah, yeah, because
Yeah.
you're doing common things, sometimes long hours into the night, and yeah, you,
Yeah.
of course, form your
Okay,
own group.
great.
Yeah.
So for me, very interesting, and that's why luckily told us you want to be with us on the podcast is you did an NES the internship in Germany at in Cologne,
Yes,
if I recall that correctly.
correct.
So starting with that, maybe walk us a little bit. You were an ESTA member, so um, that point of transparency, you were a member of the ESTA local committee, but as far as I know, you're also allowed to go on internships if you're not member of ESTA. But
Correct.
let's say in general, how was the process then that you found your internship in Cologne? And yeah, how in general, not about the deadlines, obviously that changed from 2015 to now, but in general, how is the process then to get your internship?
Right. So, yeah, I could give you a brief about how the offers, or at least in ISTEM Manipal, we have let's say we have 150 offers exchanged in that year. We release it over 3 rounds based on how we see fit. So 50 offers in each round, and then uh, those are made public, and then the members of ISTE the students of the Manipal University basically can apply for these. And what we do is we have a non-identifiable CV that we ask students to prepare, so they cannot associate it back to any student's name or something like that. And then we group those up, and we have, let's say, 20 people applying for one offer. We have an internal review process where we involve the faculty of the university itself to evaluate it. So there's no bias of sorts. We do not evaluate as a team any offers, any of the candidates. So we involve the faculty to evaluate the CVs, for example.
By faculty, you mean the professors and
And the assistant
the scientifics
professors,
of wow.
yes,
Okay.
at the university. So we sort of try and keep ourselves away from that part of it. And of course, we have an internal coding system. So then when they say, okay, this particular CV seems the best fit for this offer, we inform the student that they have the opportunity to take it forward from their end. And yeah, it is up to them to take it or not. Usually, yeah, most of the time they do because they have applied for it. And then the process starts where the exchange coordinators come in, and then they prepare you and give you your paperwork for applying for visa, etc. So all of this roughly happens in like February, March, latest April, because usually we start sending people from June onwards.
Yeah. Um, the reason is because there is a summer break in India
Correct.
university.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So from some roughly the last week of May till all the way up to end of July. So roughly eight
Yeah.
weeks, 9 weeks, we have a break, and that's when we aim to send more students. But we
Obviously, yeah.
Right, but we also have a semester between January and May, which can be done as your final bachelor end project, for example. And we
Mhm.
get some offers during those periods as well, where people do their final bachelor end project using an IST offer.
Oh,
So
that's really cool.
very productive indeed, 5 to 6 months at the employer, and they get good work done, they get good experience, and yeah, we are also happy at the end. So some people also go in that period.
Okay, that's cool. I mean, I really like. I'm really amazed by the process of having an anonymous CVs in the end, so there is no bias about a person, because and in the end, like you said, I mean, if you start with 2,000 people, you end up knowing, like, let's say, a lot of them, and then some you think are more, you like them more to compare to others. But this basically eliminates all those biases. That's really great, actually. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And but let's focus now on your internship. You went to Cologne.
Yes.
How was it for you, the preparation, and what did your family actually say, that you said, okay, mom and dad, in the summer I'm not here, I'm in Germany? What did they say? Well,
Well,
how did they react? And
yeah, for one thing, they were happy that I was doing something productive in the summer because most of the time it would have been just me sitting at home and maybe enjoying my break. But
mm-hmm,
yeah, and of course, I uh, I did discuss this offer with them way back in February, so it wasn't like a sudden decision that they knew, okay,
mm-hmm,
I'm leaving, within 2 weeks or so. They were involved at every step of the process, and they were happy. They were a little concerned, of course, because it was, I think, my first time going abroad on my own. I have been to Europe with my family way back when I was like 12 or something,
yeah,
so I have flashes and images of what Europe was like. I think,
yeah,
yeah, but living on my own was a totally different experience, managing your own, yeah, your life basically.
yeah,
And I think it was a really fruitful experience for me in the summer. Got to know a lot of people, uh, worked with such, yeah, experienced and well-respected people in the university. So that was fun. The preparation side was was a little bit, let's say, difficult because yeah, you would know that sometimes the paperwork can be delayed or stuff like that. And indeed,
yes, indeed,
I had to push my internship start week by 1 week ahead, and there was a lot of chaos because yeah, there was some issue with my visa where because I was living in Manipal for so long, they wanted me to apply in Bangalore in the consulate in Bangalore, but yeah, my residence is Mumbai, which is maybe yeah, I don't know, quite a few hundred
yeah,
kilometers away. So at the last minute to do all of this was quite a panic, and yeah, but finally I got there, and it was yeah, let's say it wasn't actually smooth sailing from there on itself because the when I reached Cologne, they informed me that. The person who had the keys to my apartment was out on a 4 day long weekend. I think it was the first long weekend in June, and so I spent a couple of days crashing on the couch of another IST member out there who was really kind, who really yeah, at least made me feel at home. So that was really nice. I think the fact that I had somebody to rely on even in
yes,
this problematic situation was good credit to the committee there. And yeah, but I got introduced to my professors the following week. The mentor for the internship. We discussed the goals, etc. And I think there were two master. Yeah, there were two master students under him who I was interacting with on a regular basis. So shout out to Tobias and Joachim. But yeah, it was fun working with all of them. And
yeah.
indeed, I think it was probably their first. I don't remember exactly, but I think it was their first student that they
Okay.
accepted from India.
I would like
Yeah,
to stop you a little bit because I want to talk about the work in more specific way later on.
yeah.
But I want to ask you again regarding. I mean, is it normal in India to go abroad during the summer for internships? Are students applying a lot, not just via YESTA, but in general, to go abroad throughout the summer for internships and so on, or is it more, let's say, a specific thing which is happening with YESTA?
No, I think if I'm being honest, the chances of actually realizing an internship for students, at least at our experience level, is virtually impossible if you do it on your
Yeah,
own because of work visa related issues and yeah, people don't
yeah,
want to hire you just for 2 months, let's say.
yeah,
So indeed, I
indeed.
think it would be nearly impossible for students to have an opportunity like this if it was not for this exchange program.
I mean, that's, I think, one of the biggest selling points we have with ES is actually the support with the visa. When I was really active in the exchange in ES, the Austria, I always told like Austrian students, but also, let's say our interns, we welcomed in Austria, that the visa support is one of the most beneficial things, because if you're not used to all those bureaucracies, especially in Europe, sometimes some countries like Germany and Austria, I have to say, there we really meet all the things you think about Austria and Germany that can be really complicated, and the forms have to be like exactly in this. And I mean, that's the sense. And thanks God, I mean, European Union and Europe made it a little bit easier. But still, for Indians need visas, and I also can, maybe later on or after the recording, I can tell you some stories I had with some Indian interns in my local committee. But anyway, I think, like I said, that's one of the biggest selling points we have, and the support there is always great. I also remember that the SD Manipal is really doing really great job then for their interns to apply for everything, right?
Correct. Yeah. I think initially when I started off at ISD Manipal, the program wasn't, let's say, very well publicized nationwide. But I think in that sense, we were lucky that the committee itself was in the university that I chose. So you had more exposure to it.
Yeah, indeed. So in general, as far as I know from the current development in ESD India, it's every student in India would be allowed um, to apply for an ESD internship. However, they are now focusing on the local committees in general, because India is a huge country with more than 1 billion people living. So what they want to do is they want to grow natural. They don't want to force any growth, and I think that's the right business decision. To be honest, yeah.
Indeed, yeah.
Yeah. So, but in general, if an Indian student is listening, just write an email to Yes to India in general, and I think that they can figure something out for you, so that you're able to apply for an internship. And I think let's come back to the first impression, because I have to get my head around that. You're arriving in Cologne after I don't know how many hours of flight, and the first information is the guy with the key to your apartment is not there. So how did that turn out? Who told you that, and how did it end up that you crashed the couch of another the committee member in Cologne?
Right. So yeah, I think the at the time the president of the committee in Cologne came to pick me up at the airport, for example, and then yeah, we were on our way to the building, and I don't think he as well knew that this was the case right until we, sort of picked me up, or maybe on the day of my arrival. And then yeah, he realized that he needed to do some damage control. So if indeed it was, I think. More than a 14-hour flight or something, because it was not direct. And I was really hungry. And so he was like, okay, let's worry about this later. He took me to his farm on the outskirts of Cologne. His mom made me an amazing, let's say, supper.
Yeah.
And once I was sort of, I was okay. I was well fed. Then he was like, okay, let's deal with this. And then he called up a couple of people. Considering it was the long weekend, we were lucky to find this one boy called Felix, who was in Cologne still at that time, and he said, "Yeah, sure, he can crash with me." So, yeah, I was with him for 4 days. It was nice to know him as well.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I think.
and that, yeah.
Yeah, so that's actually really cool thing about, I mean, I'm doing a lot of advertisement, but I really like the approach the Cologne committee members did in the end, because in the end, okay, there's the point, but okay, we can deal with that. We have some network there, and for you, okay, there's a couch to crash, and then after 4 days you can move in with in your supposed apartment. So
Yeah.
and how was it then? Because before we started recording, you told me, and you already said it as well, is it was the first time for you being totally independent.
Yeah.
So how was it then from there on? Getting your groceries, cooking, cleaning in the end, and also really managing everything on your own. How was that experience then for you?
For sure, I think it was a let's say a thrill and an excitement combined. So yeah, I think my my parents had always made sure that I would do my own cleaning, so that was really not an issue. But cooking for sure was quite a challenge, because I had never done it myself for so long continuously before, and indeed, getting to know massively popular supermarkets like Aldi and Lidl and stuff, and then it was good that I wasn't living alone, so I was with three other people in the student apartment. So It turns out, it was pretty decent setup. So it was two guys and two girls in one apartment, and the guy whose name was Benno, he actually spent 6 months in India, so it was fun to also talk to him. He knew a lot about my city, his city, and
Mhm.
he had in fact traveled to places. Culturally significant places in North India that I had not even been to yet. So it
Oh
was
wow.
yeah, it was interesting to hear his experience of it because I, of course, know what it's like there, but I've just never been. And yeah, we exchanged some coins. He was surprised to see the new, let's say the I think it was a new coin that our currency had come out with. So I gave it to him, and then he gave me a very special €2 coin of the Cologne Cathedral at the back and stuff.
Ah
So
yeah.
it was I still remember all of that, but indeed it was nice living with them, and I think I got over the cooking inertia after a while, of course.
Yeah, I really liked it. I mean, what a coincidence that he was already in India. I mean, you really start in the very beginning. You have already something to talk about, right? That's like really was helping a lot in the beginning, I believe. Because how was the cultural shock for you? Because when students from going to India or let's say to Asia, I myself I also visited. I have been to Japan, to Hong Kong.
Yeah,
I did my internship in Qatar. Of course, there is a kind of culture shock because it's different. I mean, how was it for you then coming to Germany and um,
right. I think from
being
the
there?
from the social aspect, let's say let's say time after work, that part was pretty it was not too shocking for me that people met up, ate pizza, had some beers, had some fun parties, etc. But I think the most significant shock for me was actually within the university itself, the culture that you have, the interaction that you have with your
Yeah,
professors and your peers, because I think let's be honest, Asia does have a certain system of let's say hierarchy within universities and offices and stuff. And then you come to Europe where it's more of an open door policy. You don't need to address your professor with sir. You could call him by his first
yeah.
name. And I think that was a little awkward for me, and it takes some getting used to. But indeed, that was my first taste of let's say academic or professional life in Europe.
I think that's very interesting. I mean, when I think about Germany, you think also about the work ethic, about you being on time. You start at 8 a.m. You leave earliest at 5 p.m. And I think the open door policy. I mean, I'm used to it. I'm working now in an international corporation where you don't have like. Um, very formal way to communicate, even with your boss or the site managers or something. But
Right.
I noticed also when I was meeting up with yes, the interns from India, that they were speaking like this, sir, because this is coming from the university there. If you're speaking to a professor, you really have to be very formal with them, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's I think the really big. Yeah, I don't think like there's a pro and con on that, but I think that's like really interesting to leave. And how did it lead then, because you're now living in the Netherlands actually,
Yes.
stepping now forward, but we'll come back to your work later. How is it now for you, because now you're now in Europe for quite some time, now you're totally used to that, but um, let me ask, how long did the process to get used to that? Like you said, it was awkward in the beginning. Obviously, I mean, I think everybody expects that. But how long did it take to really get to use to this way of working together, or this open door policy?
hmm Yeah, I think for sure it took, let's say, at least half of my time of my internship within ISS. I think 1 month out. I was there for 8 weeks, so 1 month
Hmm.
almost. Um,
Okay.
but it was also, yeah, for example, let's say something as simple as taking a day off, for example. Yes, I know it's not generally encouraged, but indeed, just a single day off, probably you would still feel a bit guilty, let's say, of asking for it if you were working in India because well, yeah, let's just say it's not encouraged very, or it takes a long process
Okay.
to get approved. But yeah, I wanted to have a look at the a guided tour of the Mercedes-Benz factory in Stuttgart, which was only open on a Friday and not a Saturday, Sunday. So I
Yes.
spoke to my prof, and he was totally happy letting me, explore this opportunity. So,
That's really great. And how was it when you were going back then actually? Because in science we speak about the culture shock and the reverse culture shock when you go back home. How was it then for you?
I think there wasn't too much of a reverse culture shock. I think purely because of the amount of time I spent abroad. Maybe
Okay.
if it was, yeah, if I go back now, I would probably feel it a lot more because you have sort of tend to forgotten what it was like before you made the switch here. But I think for 2 months, it was not that long for me to have actually a
Okay,
reverse
yeah,
culture
that's
shock.
true.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And how was the work then? I mean, what was the work about? I mean, it was a university you were working at, and you were working with professors. Um, what was the work about? I mean, if you're not allowed to speak in detail, but in general, what did you do, and how did your education till then help you, and how did the internship then in the end help you then later on with the education?
Right. So I was in the faculty of automotive engineering out there, and the project was based on. I don't know if you've seen the Renault Twizy. It's like this really weird
Yes.
seater car with yeah, no fixed windows and stuff, and it's quite quite an awkward automobile.
Yeah.
But there was a student project already ongoing where there was this physical vehicle in the lab, and there was some work related to deconstructing or reverse engineering this gearbox to have the students learn from it and the forces are acting on each tooth and whatnot. So it was mainly about creating or reverse engineering the gearbox of that particular vehicle. And I think that was yeah, it was not too high level, so I had already studied quite a bit about the subject matter beforehand in India. And yeah, it was enjoyable. It was manageable. Some things were new for me, and it was good to know that. But
Yes.
yeah, that was the scope of things.
I think that that's actually somehow, I believe, the perfect internship, right? Because you're not too overwhelmed by the work topic. You think, okay, should I manage that? But it's also not too, let's say, relaxed that you think, okay, I know that already.
Correct.
Also, I believe when you start working, you really soon figure out, although you maybe learn something at university, in business or at university, when you're really working, everything is different. So actually, that everybody should take the chance to take every internship he or she can get, because
Yeah,
you always learn something new. And if it's simply the processes within a company, if you get to know that,
indeed.
that
I would, yeah, I would encourage students to apply for something that they're interested in, even if they don't know more about the subject matter. And yeah, in your application, write that you're willing to learn. I think sometimes that can hit off. So do not limit yourself when you're applying for offers, not just IST, but also job offers in life. So I think that's something to keep in mind.
Indeed. I think it's always very, very good also to step a little bit out of the comfort zone to learn something new, because in the end, life is always about learning something new. And I think if somebody starts to study engineering or natural science, that's the path you chose to always learn. I think we learned it especially with coronavirus, how fast the vaccinations and everything were forced, and how the then the statistical valid research was done that the vaccines are safe and so on. I think that's the funny stuff about natural science and engineering, isn't it? I mean,
Yes,
you always learn something new and you always keep learning, and that's challenging, but also the thing we the path we chose. But
indeed.
let's go on, because I think what you wrote in your email when we had our email contact, that
Yeah,
actually the internship in the end really shaped your life, because you ended up applying for a master's in Eindhoven in the Netherlands. You're now still living in the Netherlands, like we already mentioned.
yeah,
So maybe let walk me a little bit throughout the process, what happened, because I think before you went to Germany, probably you would have stayed like 4 years then in Manipal for the bachelor's degree, starting working or maybe doing a master's in India. But how did the decision, let's say, food within yourself to apply in Europe, and how did you end up in Eindhoven then?
right. So I think if we go back to before the IST internship in Germany, I already had an idea that I wanted to do my master's in Europe. it was at some point pretty clear to me that the stuff that I wanted to study wasn't offered very easily, or it wasn't really available in India,
Okay.
which is why I wanted to go to Europe. And yeah, the summer vacation before my IST internship, I had already learned, let's say, the first level of German, for example, because I knew I had to utilize my time efficiently. And the further you went along your engineering career, the harder it would be to allot time to learn stuff like this. So
Yes,
yeah, and
indeed. Wow.
yeah, and yeah, and I think this was indeed a stepping stone to applying for colleges within Europe. So my professor Dr. Axel Fassbender was an alumni of RWTH in Aachen, which was my number one, let's say,
Yes.
destination where I wanted to go to. I think it is for a lot of Indians who want to study automotive engineering for a couple of reasons. It's the course is so well known, the fees are less for international students, and it's always difficult to get into. So yeah, there's a lot of competition, and indeed, the first time I finished my bachelor's and applied to that university, I got a rejection, and then it was let's say it was a little bit of overconfidence, because the first year after my bachelor's I only applied to universities in Germany, and then I
Yeah.
did not get what I really wanted, so I took a year gap and I applied in the year after that for also universities in Sweden and Netherlands. And once I finally got all my offers on the table, I selected Eindhoven at the end of the day, because it had what I wanted. It was, let's say, it was a difficult choice between all the universities, because they were also good. Um, but yeah, I was, let's say, it was a change in destiny that I did not end up in Germany, but indeed the Netherlands. But I think, let's say, in hindsight, both options would have been equally good. So
Yes, I also don't think it's like overconfidence that you just applied in Germany at the beginning. I mean, you knew you wanted to go there, and simply and you have to try, isn't it? And I
yeah,
think one of the big lessons then what we learn here is you just have to apply again and again. But
correct.
of course, when you see okay, there it's very difficult to get into German universities, you have to broaden your mind. And I think the Netherlands also. I think especially as an Austrian, I can say that Dutch universities are really well known and really have good programs. And so I think ending up in Eindhoven for your masters is not like the worst situation to be in, isn't it?
For sure, yeah. I think the only issue was that the first year I applied, I did not know too much about Dutch universities, because it's not that popular, let's say, in India as much as German
Yeah.
universities are. So I think that was the case. But indeed, it's not a step down or anything like that from
Yeah,
Germany.
absolutely not. I think it's really funny. I mean, I think especially when it's about engineering, everybody thinks about Germany, but also in other countries there are really good programs. But let's switch. I think we are both not experts like really to judge all the universities. But I think that's really for me it's really interesting, the process of also taking off a gap year and saying okay, I want to apply again. You were not quitting, and you graduated from master like about a year ago or something, what I saw on LinkedIn,
Yeah,
and
that's
now you're working as an engineer. And please walk us a little bit through it. And my question is now, starting your professional career, looking back to your time as an ESTA volunteer, how did it help you then to really start out your start out job in the end, so your first junior position?
right. I think the first thing that, at least me working as a committee member in LC Manipal, was two things: learning how to actually grind it out. There's no
Mhm.
substitute for hard work there. And the second part was actually really, really strict deadlines. So we talked about visa processes before, and yeah, if you send an email too late, it could result in, for example, a student not going for an internship. So, in fact, adhering to hard, absolutely strict deadlines was something that I learned at EST Manipal. And of course, the experience that I had in Germany as a trainee myself was a stepping stone to getting admission into TU Eindhoven as an automotive master's program. And yeah, I think it's been a while since I was on the committee, but these two things are really at the top of my mind.
Yeah, that's really indeed. I think especially when you learn about visas, everything, and I think what something people also learn within IEST or maybe throughout their first working experience when they do an IEST internship is like speaking to people you don't know on the one hand, but also that writing an email is not so hard as sometimes it looks. You just send it, and then when you receive the answer, it's even more sloppy than what you wrote. Actually, it's like you lose the fear, so to say. I always let's see, that's how I say it. You lose the fear of interacting with people. You open up, and you also lose the fear of writing emails. Because I know people who are really afraid to write emails, and that's because they simply never really learned it.
Yeah, for sure. But I would say for those kind of people, yeah, I was one of them myself. Let's just say you're not facing the person when you're when the person is reading it, so it's better than an in-person conversation. So take comfort in that fact and just
Yes.
go out there and be comfortable with writing emails. But funny that you mentioned about emails because there used to be a time when the workload was so high in LC Manipal as a volunteer that some of my friends had a running joke that, okay, you cannot reach Vezan via WhatsApp or call, but if you send him an email, he will respond to it within 5 minutes. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's actually great. I somehow remember that as well from my. I was always really responsive. I mean, I think what people then, especially now, like you and me did when answering to all those emails and also messages and so on. I think what we both had to learn afterwards, after our, let's say, intense siesta career, that we are not responsive. Like learning to say, okay, this can wait, and something. I mean, that's something on the other hand, but I think that's totally worth it. And like you said, I really liked what you said, putting the work in. That's the point. Everybody has to learn, especially in engineering and natural sciences. You have to put the work in, otherwise it's not getting you anywhere.
Yeah,
Um, Before I want to ask my last question,
sure.
I would like to. Is there any story during your internship you would like to share, like a funny story or a weekend story, or is there something you can share with us, maybe which describes your time in Germany?
Oh yeah, sure. I think the highlight was my visit to the two automotive giants museums
Mhm.
in Stuttgart. So Porsche and Mercedes. I had the opportunity to look at it. Yeah, it was a field day. I think I spent the entire day on Friday as well as Saturday. It really it stimulates something inside of you to want to be at that level, and I think that's
Mhm.
something that was great. But also, I got my first opportunity to sit in a car of that level on the road and take a ride in it. So that was also something really memorable. And yeah, I still have contact with the two master students who are working with me. Sadly, we haven't been able to meet since I've come to Europe, but yeah, we will meet soon, hopefully.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So, listen, thank you very much for being with us. And my last question is actually the question I'm always asking every person being on the podcast is, if you imagine now you can speak to all students on the planet, and everybody understands English or German or Hindi, everybody understands you. What would you tell them, or how would you advertise ESD why they should get involved with an ESD internship? Not necessarily as a volunteer, but why should they do an ESD internship?
Oh yeah, like I said, I think the key word here is international exposure, and if you are interested in that, and I think who wouldn't be, this is the way to go because like I mentioned, for at least for students from India, it's almost impossible to get an opportunity like this abroad. And also the partnering countries, or let's say the partnering universities, are also let's say top of the line, and yeah, really high level yeah work organizations. So you know that you're getting quality stuff out of it at the end of the day. And yeah, I guess I would say apply for it. There's no harm in no harm in trying your luck.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Yeah.